That really is true. Abundance is one of the most enjoyable things to embrace. And we find it as we do things for other people. I want to take you back a few years. I want you to remember the smell of that pink eraser in elementary school. Can you remember that? How about construction paper where it was orange and green and blue and it had that texture and you ripped it and you made things out of it? Are you with me yet? Have you walked into an elementary school lately? There is amazing learning going on. There is such an enthusiastic feel and zest for life. If you haven't been to one, find one, figure out a way to get in and check in at the counter before you walk in. But get into the school and see what's going on. It's absolutely fantastic. I'd like to go back to a 5th grade year of mine. I wore my new shoes to school. You know the feeling? Wearing brand new shoes. You know, the white ones, the athletic. You got new shoes on. You know, I'd like to see all kids have that experience. I think we could make a difference there. So I had these new shoes on, and it had been snowing most of the week. It's crazy up northern Utah. You get a lot of snow. And I remember thinking, wow, it'd be fun to wear my other shoes, my slickers, and put some wax on them and slide down the school hill. We used to do that all the time. And, of course, check with your playground advisor now. And so I'm wearing these new shoes, and it starts to rain outside. You know what happens when it rains on snow? And I'm thinking, how am I going to get home? How am I going to, my shoes nice, and get all the way home without interference of that? The room was kind of bright and cheery and that, but outside it was gloomy, and I remember thinking, well, I'll have to take the long way. There was 2 trails home. One was a shortcut through a hospital construction site. They were putting in a new state-of-the-art hospital. And our trail went right through that area. And so with all of the construction vehicles and the turmoil, it was really muddy. I knew that would be impassable. So my plan was to take the long way, which was a sidewalk, and went up through a neighborhood and up a steep hill of steps. I believe it was like 57 steps. I did my math as I would go. You know, by the 6th grade, I could count them all, and it's impressive. And, well, I started heading home. I came over to where the shortcut trail would meet the long way. Well, certainly nobody had taken the shortcut. And I remember approaching and thinking to myself, what's all this laughter about? And as I got closer, the laughter was actually rude and pointing fingers. Ever been jeered at by a group of your colleagues? And as I got closer, I looked down at what they were pointing at. Imagine with me that bright yellow slicker of a raincoat and matching little yellow slicker boots of a tiny girl in my class that had braved the construction site shortcut. I looked at her. I looked at them. And I looked back at her. And what happened next changed my young life. A lump appeared in my throat. You see, I couldn't see her boots. They were sunk clear down in the mud. And she was trying, without success, to free herself from the grasp of that clay, only to hear her friends laughing at her and mocking her. And that lump came into my throat because the excellence within me said something. That excellence within me said, go help her. I was just a kid. What did I know? Not once did I think of my shoes. Not once did I think, what is this crowd jeering at? What are they thinking at? No, it didn't even cross my... That's what excellence does within us. Excellence creates within us this passion to excel beyond normal. We love it. We love a winning team. We love someone that overcomes triumph. This beautiful array of dancing today and the voices we've heard and the many speakers we've heard from, this excellence, it brightens us. Think of a moment in your life when you were excellent because you listened to that excellence within you. I haven't always listened. There's probably times when I've turned down the volume. But I think this particular time, I share it with you because what I learned, I believe all of us can relate to. I took off out there. I got to her, and I had to lift her by a fireman's carry. There was no way to, there was no hugging her up and carrying her over. She was too stuck. I got underneath. I threw her arm over. And I reached down and I grabbed her and I just lifted her right out of her boots. All there was these two little circles of glossy boots, and the mud was all around them. But have you ever seen hope in another human being's face? Now that is a characteristic you want to behold. Because as I approached her, what I was doing was far different than the crowd. And the hope, when her eyes met mine, said to me, brilliant. Good job, brain. Way to get there. Way to listen. And I picked her up, and you're fine walking yourself in the mud. You're going to sink a little bit. But now I'm carrying her, and I'm walking back to the sidewalk where I'm going to place her down and try to find a dry spot because now she just has her little bright white socks on. I find a little dry spot under a tree, and I set her down there. And then I walked back over, and I got down, and I freed those boots from the clay. And I remember back with them and her smiling at me. But it was much quieter. What happened to the crowd? What happened to the jeering, and the mocking, and the pointing fingers? It was just her and I now. I never thought of that till later, what that must have been like to see another colleague go out there. But I'll tell you what. This girl was one of the most talented musicians I'd ever heard in my life up to that point. She was also one of the nicest people in the school. I didn't know that till I got up to who she was, till I saw her closer up. And I remember walking back with a stick and her boots. And I cleaned those boots off with that stick, and I knelt down, and I placed them on her feet, and I picked her back up, and I said, let's get you home. It wasn't about my shoe. It was about her soul that mattered. What if that day I'd have gone home with perfectly brand new white shoes? What if I, instead of impacting her life because of my excellence, that I listened to? What if I instead had joined that crowd and got a little caught up in having fun at someone else's expense? I don't know what became of those white shoes. I imagine I got home and cleaned them up best I could. Probably spent 3 or 4 days grounded. The story probably saved me, though. But I don't know whatever became of those shoes. But I know what became of that memory that that girl afforded me by being in a situation that I would listen to the excellence within me. Are you hearing it? Are you hearing the excellence within you? Now, I want to pose a question for you. Let's just say there's a gathering much like this. And an assignment has been given to think of someone that's made a difference in your life. So you're sitting around the table. Who would come to mind? Would you take a moment and go with me there? Think for a moment. Who has impacted your life? Try to think of their first name, if you would. And with that first name and with that person in mind, would you think what it was they did for you? Here's my guarantee. I was once walking on the pier in Cabo San Lucas with my beautiful bride, and she's an amazing human being. Every reason why I have the opportunities I do. And I'm walking with her, and out comes this manager, right? I speak the language, gracias. And he comes out and he starts speaking English, and I was grateful for that. And he says, if you'll eat at our restaurant, I'll warranty the food. That's a long time, warranty. 5-year warranty, is that mileage or? And I kind of laughed and I said, he'll warranty the food. Well, we went out and we went to other restaurants looking around where we were going to eat. I said, that's quite a compliment to him that he would guarantee that and translate that to be warranty the food. Let's go back there. And he set up this buffet and he had us just absolutely taken care of. And I promise you, he meant it from a standpoint of his passion. I'll warranty you. So here's what I'm going to guarantee you about thinking about those people who meant the most to you. Whatever they did for you was an exhibit of their excellence, seeing the excellence within you. That's why you lifted up. That's why you were edified. That's why you remember them. Was it a school teacher? Was it a parent? A neighbor? Who came to mind? Whose first name did you think of? And so I asked you to pretend that you were in a room and that's what's happening, because here's what else I'm going to extend the invitation of pretending for a moment. Pretend now that you're watching a room full of people talking about the excellence of others. And now you're the bystander. And they mention your name. You're the one who came out in the mud. You're the one that lifted and the crowd left. Would that put a lump in your throat to hear someone speak like that to you? Or about you? That's good stuff. Here's how you find it. Like looking out of a window at a view, look into the eyes of hope in others. Look for an opportunity to see them in their excellence. Anybody can see people in their problems. It takes no talent to point out what's wrong with the country. It takes no talent to point out what's wrong with a teacher or a neighbor. Where's the guarantee in that? There's a deeper guarantee. It's that if you have excellence within you and you've recognized it, what type of abundance would we have if that's the window we looked out of at the excellence of others? What if we saw past their weaknesses, past the mud, past the grasp of the clay on their shoes, and instead we saw the magnificent musician that was inside, and the person that was the nicest person in the whole school? What then? Well, the snow melted, and the spring flowers came up, and that hospital that was built helped people, and the school years passed, and life went on. I've never seen her again. But if I did, if I had the chance to see her again, you know what I'd see? You do, don't you? I'd see a slicker raincoat and stuck boots and a fireman's carry and mud on her boots and all of that. And when the day was over and we were done laughing about it, I'd see the excellence within her. Because as I drew closer to her, listening to my excellence, I discovered who she was. And it was abundant. Just make a difference in this beautiful world by seeing your excellence and then making sure that you see it in others. Remember, there's others who take the shortcut. They stumble, they fall, they get stuck. Let's make sure at least their socks are clean. And let's have that memory in our heart that we are too.